Hi, everyone. Um, I am excited to welcome you to another ThankView how-to. This next edition of our webinar series is focused on leadership donors and video. I think that this is still an area that we are expanding into with video, especially personalized video messaging. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you all today. For those of you who don't know, I am Lindsay Roth, and I'm the Partner Community Manager over at ThankView, and I'm also the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Annual Giving at UMass Dartmouth. I have been in higher ed for just over 10 years now, and really love the ThankView product and all that it has to offer, especially when communicating with niche groups and alumni. And so I'm excited to talk about leadership donors today. Before we get to it, I just wanted to plug our Facebook partner community group. For those of you who are not a member yet, I really encourage you just to go to Facebook, type ThankView Partner Community in the search bar, and then request to join the ThankView Partner Community group. This is a place where you can toss ideas out there and get a lot of great responses and inspiration. People are sharing good news and things that are happening at their shops so that you can see what other people in higher ed community are doing with this product. And also, we just, I think, have a lot of great conversations that are happening each and every day. And for those of you who aren't aware, we do have a blog that details not just product features and success stories, but also some case studies and examples. And we also recap the webinars on our blog. So if you go to medium.com/thankview, you can peruse our library of pieces and articles. And if you have an example that you'd really like to share or a case study you'd like to focus on, let me know, because we can absolutely make that happen. So before we get started, I just wanted to go over what we'll be chatting about today. We'll be, diving into our leadership donor population and talking about ways that you can transform traditional solicitations into video so that you're not really recreating the wheel, you're just altering the message for a new channel. Some audiences to consider, campaign examples, and then we'll go into some Q&A as well. So, before we really dive in, I wanted to first, get us to a higher level and talk about the device and social media use by generation. I think that a common misconception is that, video is still maybe not quite an acceptable form of communication. But if you look at the device and social media use, especially with some of our older generations and more vintage generations like the baby boomers and the silents, 67% of baby boomers on our smartphone, 57% of them are on some form of social media. But then when you look at the overall population of the 78 percentile over 18 in the United States owning a smartphone, I think that it's not that video should be considered unacceptable or, a daring choice. I think instead you should be thinking that you're meeting people where they already are. People are consuming video every day, voluntarily or not. And, to dive into some stats here, Cisco predicts that 82% of all internet traffic will be video by 2021. So if you're not communicating with your donors at all levels with video, somebody else will be. And millennials are 150% more likely to watch video on a mobile device. Millennials and Gen X love animation, particularly because they grew up with Saturday morning cartoons being a thing. So it kind of evokes some nostalgia from them and they respond well to it. Overall, when you're creating your content for any audience, it should feel genuine and not highly, highly produced. because I think that with the rise of social media usage and more regular literacy with different forms of video, people are actually way more sensitive and know when they're being pitched to versus when they're actually consuming content that is just real and beneficial to them. Generation X love educational videos. They usually watch a lot of how-tos and really also try to just learn and consume content that way. And as we know, video is 3 to 5 times more recallable than text. Boomers are more active on tablets, laptops, and desktops, but again, that doesn't mean that they're not consuming video. The device is just different. And so lucky for you, you're on ThankView, and we are a responsive platform. And so no matter what the device your audience is viewing your ThankView on, it will respond accordingly and not hinder the experience of the end user. So let's dive into it. As I mentioned, I think it's really great to get inspiration for leadership messages from campaigns that you're already sending out. I really encourage you to look at some of the campaigns that you've sent out recently and what has worked well. What's had a great response rate by email, by mail, maybe if you had some leave behind pieces or direct mailings that have gotten a really great response rate. Look and see what the heart of that message was and condense it. You can't always, afford to go on and on with video. It has to be succinct and clear. Otherwise, you really run a high risk of your audience just abandoning the message or the media before you get the message across. Think about if there's any written points that you can show visually, such as a graph or a photo, or even just testimony. If there's people that are already featured in pieces as, examples of the community or donor population, or even the beneficiaries in the form of students or program recipients, can you film these individuals to encourage more conversion? Because that also takes you as the organization out of the picture in a way and puts your testimonial subjects in as ambassadors and a community with a peer-to-peer solicitation. With a message of like, join me. You're going to want to basically create some sort of a digital messaging campaign. So I don't think that you can necessarily discount social media in this either. I think cross-promotion on those platforms for certain audiences in the leadership category, like a leadership annual giving program, are totally acceptable. But I'm going to actually talk about a specific example that we embarked on at Boston University, where we had some students following up over the phone, and they acted basically as prospect managers for a select population. And that was actually, a really great project and a lot of fun. And ultimately we, we're pretty successful with that attempt. You can also use thank you and video to tell your message in a new way. So imagine a student who's saying, maybe being featured as a scholarship recipient. Instead of receiving a letter talking about their day or their experience or what their year looks like because of all that they're involved in, why not show them and have the student really, take more of a lead role in that piece and let them go around with their phone and selfie style, film a ton of footage throughout their day, narrate it themselves, and then you can use really simple video editing software or hand that over to your marketing department to stitch together and package it with ThankView, which is a really polished platform, but is totally acceptable to send some homegrown video content in that way. And I think that your donors then, to the point of making a genuine impact, would have a way different experience, because also when you read, that activates the thought centers in your brain, but when you watch and consume video, that activates the emotional centers of your brain. And when people give, they give emotionally. And I'm not saying that we need to get that deep into the actual science behind why we give as humans, but at the same time, it makes sense, right? You want people giving emotionally. And then, of course, you're just going to want to record any feedback back and check in on progress regularly, especially if you're using an approach like I'm going to talk about, where you're using students as prospect managers in conjunction with your video campaign. Because you're just going to want to, monitor and see how it's going, but that's part of any approach that you're taking. So I thought we could start with an example from Boston University. This is a piece that was created as like a leave behind, but also could really be used as a direct mail piece. And it has a very simple tagline, which would be great to show across multiple platforms. It's leadership looks like you. And as you can see, they really detail the benefits and the different levels, the ways to make a gift. And ultimately, there is a variety of faces across the piece. There's also some graphs that show the impact that leadership giving have on the reverse of this. But the slide was a little limited. And also, I think that those stats are outdated, so I just didn't want to put them up there. So, that's another piece that can really be told through video. And this is one of the, more general static pieces that you can really translate to video quite easily. So if you have a tagline of leadership looks like you, think about who you want to cater to. And I think that at certain places, leadership annual giving looks one way, and at other shops, it can be very different. So for the sake of an example, I suggested that we could, look at a population of donors that give $500 to $10,000 annually. When you're creating content, make sure that your audience is seeing themselves reflected. And so that might mean that you do multiple video campaigns for different types of ask amounts. Maybe your, recent graduate population that sometimes is able to pay maybe $100 per year of graduation for membership in a leadership annual giving society. Then they get a solicitation from a recent grad who explains why they like being part of that donor community, versus somebody who maybe has given $5,000 annually and recently increased their gift to $10,000. And you can talk about why they're continuing not only to support year after year, but that they're growing their giving on an annual basis. If you have membership benefits or perks associated with a giving society, absolutely plug them, because they work, and focus on the community and impact that community has through graphics, through storytelling, and ultimately, that's what is going to leave people feeling like it's a worthwhile initiative to join. For this type of campaign, I really think that you could use ThankView and also then target with specific phone follow-up. I mentioned that at Boston University, what we did was we actually had students act as miniature prospect managers with a prospect pool, and I'll talk more specifically about that example, what we did and how it turned out. But as I'm, going through this campaign example specifically, I really think you could record a video of current leadership donors, like I said, talking about perks and benefits of giving back. You could also expand that, like I said, by class, year, and different populations of recent grads or giving levels that are being targeted. And then ultimately, you're going to want to assign a group of prospects to student callers to make personalized video outreach, because ultimately what matters most is, and ThankView makes this really easy to do, thankfully, is that you really are showing your donors that you know them, and that can include a simple opening greeting. And so even if you had a video that was going out to the majority of the population, ThankView allows you to record personalized intros before the video actually starts playing, so that a student could, introduce themselves, talk about how they appreciate maybe past support that the donor has made, or just, maybe it's a gift anniversary and they say happy anniversary at the beginning. There's a variety of ways that you can kick that off. But then ultimately, because the person is hearing their name or recognition of where they've, supported the institution in the past, before the video starts, it's just going to make them perk up and take notice a bit more. And then ultimately, you're going to want to target this group for really personalized, detailed phone follow-up from a current student. And you may even go as far as to follow up and ask them to schedule a time to talk so that it feels more like a meeting, and that they're getting that personalized, catered experience rather than just a telemarketing call. Other opportunities for outreach of this nature I just wanted to cover include challenges for bonus funds. I think that we always, and as an industry, understand the impact that matching gift campaigns can have, but we don't usually see them for the leadership population. I think that challenge matches at every level work, and so consider maybe a limited time bonus fund from a major donor that would inspire that pipeline to continue to get built. Matching gift or educational campaigns would be really powerful with this type of group. They understand the value of philanthropy. And so if you have it indicated in your database that they work for a matching gift company, actually sending out the video with the message of thank you so much for your gift, increase your impact at no cost to you. Make sure that you get in touch with your HR department and take advantage of your company's matching gift program. And then really upgrade campaigns so that even if they're not members of the Annual Fund Leadership Giving Society or at that threshold yet, that you're continuing to build that participatory pipeline that turns into leadership annual giving donors. And then I wanted to cover audiences to target before we get into our campaign examples. Video is really great across any level, but for a leadership giving campaign, especially at the annual giving level, I think you can talk to Libunts who are on the threshold of a leadership giving society. Leadership at your institution should at the very least be giving at an annual giving leadership amount. Think of your temporary audiences, so your rated parents and family members who maybe have students who are about to graduate, and then the message won't feel as relevant to them because it's not benefiting a student that they know that's at the school immediately. Think of your seasonal sports and donors and alumni, especially if your team is winning, or if they have a major project that could truly transform or enhance the program. I feel like athletes love to see that type of impact, and also our sport and athletics alumni tend to be a bit more passionate about the institution because they have that spirit baked right into their experience. And then also current donors, like I said, matching gift companies, anybody who's working for those that haven't had a matching gift come through yet, it can go a long way to remind them. So I wanted to dive into some video examples, and this is something that we did at Boston University. So this is not a direct solicitation because I couldn't get a copy of one that we had sent. However, this is Juliana. I just wanted to give you an example of how the video was recorded, and then I'll talk a little bit about the campaign. It's very simple, not, just a straightforward conversation.
Hello, my name is Juliana, and I'm a student at BU. I just wanted to thank you so much for your generous gift to Boston University this past year. As a current student, I see the impact of your generosity every day on campus, and I'm so appreciative of donors like yourself. For more information about how your gift has helped build a better BU, visit www.bu.edu/campaign. Thank you, and have a great day.
So that was Juliana. She's a current student, and really, was one of our top phone-a-thon students when I was working for Boston University prior to coming to UMass D. And, what we saw was we had a group of alumni who definitely had the capacity, according to our research, to give at least at the leadership annual giving level. They had never given, and we had thrown everything but the kitchen sink at them. And so we decided to pluck out a population of about 150 people in that population, and we split it between Juliana and another Phonathon student manager. We sent out really personalized video solicitations that looked very similar to what you just saw, only we actually thanked them for, coming to an event and talked about how we really value them as a member of a community and chose a specific area that could tie back to giving in some way. And then we asked them if they would be open to making a gift or discussing the ways that they could make a gift at the Leadership Annual Giving level and join the Leadership Annual Giving Society. From that 150 donor population, and one send, meaning one personalized message, so it was actually 150 sends, from a group that had the capacity to give about $600,000, we received $35,000. And it probably was maybe 2 days worth of effort in terms of student time and planning and strategy. And then from there, the students continued to make follow-up. But really from right off the bat, we saw a $35,000 gift rate come in from that group. And granted, it was only scratching the surface of the capacity that we thought that they had to give. However, they had all never given. And so for a first-time rate for those people, and some of them had been removed from campus for many years, I just think that that's a really big success. And therefore, I encourage you to just think creatively and try. This is a great example of the United Way of Calgary talking about impact and using, just, I think, a really straightforward approach and not something that's too over the top, to the point of it needing to really be genuine. It's a little bit longer, but...
I was born to two very young parents who were split by the time I was 5 years old. My brother was born soon after me, and my father wasn't very present. And so it was really just the three of us, me, my mother, and my brother. When my brother was 5 years old, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And at one point, his body was 98% cancer, and he had to be kept in isolation. My mother had to support us all financially by herself, essentially. She would have to juggle bills, decide what she could pay, what she couldn't, in order to put food on the table for my brother. We lived in subsidized housing for pretty much my entire childhood. There was times our power went out or we received eviction notices. We'd sometimes make a game out of how long we could stay in a cold shower. It's only as I've grown older that I've started to realize the struggles she faced as a single parent. Sometimes I did feel resentment towards my friends or my peers in school because they had the freedom to go on vacations with their families. I had things on my mind like my mother's struggle financially or my brother's struggle in a health perspective. It's just kind of a constant cloud over my head throughout my early years. And realized that there was all these programs that we can access through the United Way, which could have eased a lot of the burdens and a lot of the struggles that my mother faced raising us. I'd say a lot of my story is based around the fact that we didn't access support systems enough. And my mother felt that there was kind of a stigma around asking for help, which made the struggle that we faced that much more of a struggle. I believe that success can't exist without a solid foundation. And to achieve that foundation, you need to ask for help. There was a lot of services in and around Bowness that were affiliated with the United Way. The Women in Need store on Bowness Road is funded by the United Way. The Bowness Community Association, again, is funded in conjunction with the United Way. Having access to affordable clothing and dishes and that kind of thing through the Women in Need Society really helped us because it decreased the amount we had to pay on things that you just don't realize cost as much as they do. And in my opinion, these are basic needs, and they're basic needs that everyone in Calgary and everyone in the world should be able to meet. I wish that families living in poverty knew that they had access to all the programs and all the supports that United Way offers to make sure that they get to meet them out. Poverty touches everyone, regardless of your income, regardless of your social status, regardless of what kind of job you have. And there's no shame in that at all. Bad things can happen to good people. There are so many who live at or very close to the poverty line in this city, and they do it while working full time and raising children. And that's something I think more people need to be aware of and more people need to be proactive about. When you get to the United Way, you're helping create and invest in someone else's support system. And without that support system, they can't reach the success and the potential that they have.
So this was really, simple in terms of message and approach, which is why I liked it so much. I do think that it was produced with some professionals. I don't think it was something that they necessarily did in-house. However, this is something that you could very easily recreate in-house. The message was straightforward and to the point. It was all about impacting the community, and somebody who was featured basically was someone who had benefited from services but also did not know about services, so stressing the issue there, needing to get the message out to more people so that the society as a whole can be lifted up through the programs available, and being able to impact that through a leadership, as from a leadership donor standpoint. Their society, I believe, starts at around $1,000 or $1,200. I mean, that's truly transformative and really monumental. So next up, I wanted to talk about Fresno State Alumni Association. This, again, is something they definitely did in-house, but I thought it was really, really great in terms of just getting to the heart of the community that you can join through a leadership giving society.
So I've been a member of the Alumni Board for almost 16 years, and this was a new opportunity for us to start something in this newer era.
I think the legacy of all alumni is important. And what you do, what you leave behind, we want to give part of it, not only because it's in the past, present, but because it's future.
Oh my gosh, Fresno State is everything to us. It's how we met each other, and now we have our kids, and we just, our jobs and everything, we feel like it's a result of our great experience at Fresno State. So it's like one of our highest priorities is to give back to the campus who just gave so much to us.
I think the impact that I want to have is to let students that come behind me know that there are people that care, people that love the university, that people that love Fresno and the Central Valley of California, and that are Bulldogs through and through, and that they want to be able to provide an opportunity for educational advancement through Fresno State and through scholarship. Ultimately, the students will be the beneficiaries of that.
So Fresno State launched their leadership giving society with an event with the membership, as you saw, and this was a really straightforward and simple video. But as you can see, they covered different types of donors and different generations. But your young alumni couple who had met on campus, and their whole life as they know it today is because they met at Fresno State. But then also, I think that you have your loyalty and leadership established donors as well, so that when you're sending this to a wider population, it's easy for people to see themselves in the message. And finally, I wanted to talk again about the United Way of Calgary. They have another solicitation that they've done, but this is celebrating a member of their leadership giving community. So it's an actual donor, and it's very kitschy. But I think that it gets to the heart of, that there's no real right or wrong way to do it. You just have to really establish a voice that people will connect to. And I think that this does a really great job of that. And, you know, it really has that peer-to-peer join me message at the end of it that is very strong.
Gary spent his weekend developing his hobby, pommel horsing, which they later made into.
To become a leader, you had to be the strongest, the fastest, the smartest. Only those who rose to the top became the leaders of our time.
Gary once synchronized solo diving off a 100-meter platform at the 1971 World Championships. Gary has met rescued over a dozen cats from trees.
My awesomeness is like fine Italian wine. It grows more fantastic over the years.
Gary single-handedly founded the Elderly Mobility Program. Gary once gave blood every day for an entire year. As a leadership giver, Gary has donated $1,000 to United Way every year for the past 42 years. Imagine Gary's horror when he learned the program has never changed.
I walked into United Way and I demanded it be doubled.
But he got $1,200 instead.
I've been a leadership giver, a hero in my community, for 42 years. Think of all the Calgarians who could help with that money.
So again, I think just speaking to their own community and featuring somebody who is well known in the community as well. So before we conclude our webinar, I just wanted to talk about our referral program. As you can see, I'm still not over Anna Ferris and Chris Pratt breaking up, even if he is engaged already. But as you can see, Chris is telling Anna about ThankView.com. She goes to ThankView.com/demo and puts Chris Pratt's name in the referral box. And upon signing within 3 months of her demo, Chris is now the proud owner of a new $200 Amazon gift card. You can be Chris. Just let us know, or go to encourage your colleagues in the field or at your organization to go to ThankView.com/demo and make sure that they put you as the referral. Once again, don't forget about our Facebook partner community group. Great things are being shared each day, and really, I think it's just a really nice way to continue the inspiration around video messaging in general. This is a re-record, so there are no questions. However, really appreciate you joining me if you're watching this in the replay version. And then feel free to join us for segmentation on March 21st at 1 p.m. We'll talk about the impact of personalization and segmentation around messaging and video in general, and ways that you can do that through ThankView. Once again, I'm here and always available to talk if you have any questions. My name is Lindsay Roth, and you can reach me at lindsay.roth@thankview.com. This has been another edition of ThankView How-Tos, and I really thank you all for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.